Do we have any other public comments?
I'm looking. I see no other request for comments. Would you like me to close this one down?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 4.0, report of the Administrative Committee. Discussion and possible action regarding appointment and approval of committee members and/or chairs. I would like to begin. As BRN president, I would like to make a motion to appoint Jovita Dominguez, RN, to the following committees: the Nursing Practice Committee and Chair and member of the Education and Licensing Committee. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Elizabeth Woods.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any comments from the board?
Does she accept?
Do you accept, Jovita?
I accept. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Reza, do we need to open this up for public comments?
We do need to open it up for public comment on every agenda item.
Okay. So I have one more nomination, and then we can open it up for public comments?
That would be fine.
Open it now.
Your preference. I think it'd be fine if you want to make your additional nomination and then turn to the public.
Okay, great. The second person that I would like to nominate and make a motion to accept is Susan Naranjo. I would like her to serve on the Education and Licensing Committee and also on the Legislative Committee. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Mary. Susan, do you accept?
I accept.
Thank you. BRN moderator, we can open it up for public comment now.
We'll be opening for public comment now. I will be activating the question and answer feature. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give you a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Board President Trujillo, there is no public requests for comments. Would you like me to close this window?
Sure, close the window, please. Reza, do we take a vote?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the vote would be, or the motion would be to confirm these appointees. And I think because technically there were two motions, if we could just quickly go through two separate votes just to kind of keep things straight, that would be ideal.
So, board members, let's go through the vote for Jovita Dominguez to serve on the Education and Licensing Committee and the Nurse Practice Committee. Dolores Trujillo, I vote yes. Ken?
Ken votes yes.
Betty?
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Thank you. Imelda? Imelda? Okay, maybe we'll come back to her. Susan,
Susan Aranjo votes yes.
Mary,
Mary votes yes.
and Jovita.
Yes.
And is Imelda on the line?
I'm not showing her as present in the panelist list. I wonder if she dropped off. This is Lori.
Oh, okay. I show her, but I
I
show her.
show Imelda. I'm not sure if that's her. Imelda, is this you?
I show
Yes,
her.
this is me. I dropped off, so I got on my phone.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I vote yes.
Great. All right, thank you. Now for the vote to accept Susan on the Education and Licensing and Legislative Committee. Dolores Trujillo votes yes. Ken,
Ken votes yes.
Betty,
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Imelda,
Imelda, yes.
Susan,
Susan, yes.
Mary,
Mary Fagan, yes.
Alita.
Dominguez votes yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Madam President, I have a question.
Sure.
Can you give us a lineup for all the committees now since we've added people?
Okay.
Thank you.
I will have to refer to, let's see. So the administrative committee is yourself, you, Ken, me, and Loretta as the EO.
Loretta's the liaison on that committee, by the way.
Yes, staff liaison. Enforcement is Imelda, Betty, Mary, and Susan. It's my understanding that you would like to withdraw from the committee, Ken?
Yes, I just wanted to verify that because you didn't mention it in the meeting, so thank you.
Yeah. Education and licensing is yourself, Ken, and Jovita, and Susan. Nursing practice, let me find that page. Okay, nursing practice, Betty is chair, myself, Mary, and Jovita, with Jeanette Wackerly as the staff liaison. Do you have any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
Oh, you know what? Honestly, I forgot the legislative committee.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So the legislative committee is myself as chair, Imelda, Susan, you, Ken, and, I did not, I meant to put Jovita on there. So I would like to make a motion, if I can, to place Jovita on the legislative committee. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second, Elizabeth Woods.
Thank you, Betty. Jovita, do you accept?
Dominguez accepts.
Okay,
I have a comment, if you don't mind.
sure.
Ideally, in the past, I don't know, we've never had like so many people in one committee. I don't know if there's a limit or if we should limit that amount. Just saying.
Well, let me look.
I'm happy to volunteer to go off if you have that. You do have a lot on there.
Again, I don't know if maybe Reza can help us out, if we're supposed to have a certain amount of,
Oh, I did ask Reza yesterday. And per the BRN administrative manual, it could be 2 to 4.
okay.
So
Thank you.
Ken, if you would like to step off, that would be fine. It's up to you.
I'm happy to step off. I think 3 is enough. Thank you.
So Jovita accepts. Can we get a vote? A second? We've had a second. So we can vote. Dolores Trujillo, I vote yes. Ken?
Ken Marlborough, yes.
Betty?
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Imelda?
Imelda, yes.
Susan?
Susan Naranjo, yes.
Mary?
Mary, yes.
And Jovita?
Dominguez, is yes.
Thank you. All right. Moving on. Item 5.0, discussion and possible action to accept or revise the responses to the Board of Registered Nursing Sunset Background Paper. I would like to make a motion to approve the Sunset Report, any suggested amendments, and authorize staff to make any non-substantive changes, and also to delegate the board president and vice president to sign off on the final version before submission to the legislature. Do I have a second?
I'd like to suggest a potential amendment. Shall I go forward with that, or do we need?
Reza?
You can go either way. It might be helpful to just have some board discussion before making a motion. That way we can get any possible amendments out on the table, and any amendments that we want to include can be part of that motion. So that would be my recommendation, is prior to a motion, let's have some board discussion, and then a motion, and then any additional board discussion and public comment, and then proceed to vote.
Okay, Mary, was that Mary?
Yes.
Okay.
So the issues that I'm interested in seeing if we want to potentially add something is issue 11 and 12 about, or wait a minute, it's 10 and 11. The license.
11, just to clarify, 10 and 11?
My pages. License reciprocity is 11, and that one, sorry. I apologize for getting my pages mixed up. Really, what it talks about is if people are wanting to, whether we want to join the licensure compact or not. And in the response to both, whether it's reciprocity for nurses, California nurses going to other states or other nurses coming here, this discusses if people are looking to change their residence. And it doesn't address temporary nurses, so people, traveling nurses or California nurses wanting to potential travel or practice outside temporarily, but not change their residence. And I'd like to suggest that we address that as well as people who are looking to change residence. That's something we especially had issues with COVID and trying to get additional traveling nurses. There's a delay in California, which kept people from coming here when they could go to other states if they were part of the compact.
Mary, this is, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
This is Reza. I'm just curious, do you have like a certain paragraph that, like, you have something in mind that you can help narrow it down?
Yeah, I just feel like it's not addressed at all. So what we talk about, so the question was, what do we do to help facilitate people getting licensure? And we talk about the licensure compact, which allows people to temporarily work or commute to another state as long as they remain a resident of the state that is issuing a license. So, but then our response just has to do with people who are changing their primary state of residence. So I think something needs to be added, not amend what's here, but say for those people who are not changing their primary state of residence, but wish to practice in another state temporarily, what would the response to the board be to that?
Thank you, Mary. This is Lori, and I think that we can add that. I actually had that written in my submission to talk about the temporary workforce, and I'm not seeing that it made the final cut. So I do have something already written on that, and I think that we can insert that quite easily.
Can you give me some context of what was written?
Yes, let me give me 1 second here, and I will look for what I initially submitted.
This is Elizabeth Woods. I have a question on, it says here that the board is going to discuss possible options. So this and other things, this is a pretty long document, and we're not going to be going through it issue by issue. How long is that going to take till the board has another document to present to us?
So this is Lori again, and real quick, Betty, I think part of Dolores's motion was to grant authority to the executive committee to do a final approval with the amendments discussed today. So I would, if that was accepted, we would not have to present another document out for approval, but we could share that. The due date for this to be turned in is 30 days after our sunset hearing. Our sunset hearing was held on March 12th. Therefore, it is due to the legislator on Monday, April 12th.
So this is due in a few days.
Yes, that's correct. We did not get the sunset. Excuse me, Betty, sorry.
I mean, it's a large document to go over. It took a long time to go over the document, and I was hoping that we would be discussing it more. I would like to see the document before it gets turned in.
Well, the document, this is Dolores. I believe the document was posted 10 days ago.
No, the first
It was not. It was emailed out on Monday night and posted Tuesday morning.
No.
That is a very short timeline to try to digest all the information that's in here.
Absolutely.
That is correct. It's a very short timeline to write a paper with this amount of detail as well, and coordinate all of that to go through legal approval, DCA approval, and feedback. 30 days is a short time period. We were able to complete the writing of this document with the editing and reports all back by that Monday. So it took 2 weeks. Almost 3 weeks. I apologize for that. We did do that in the meantime, a lot of discussions with several legislative staff and others as we were going through this and then preparing for our second sunset hearing that was brought upon us. So it is a very short 30-day time period to do these responses. We do have to write the paper, get it approved through, edited through legal and DCA. And then we do need to notify a board meeting that takes 10 days, which is why this was added to this one, and then be able to do that. So you are correct. It is a very quick turnaround time frame, and I appreciate your guys' patience with this.
This is Imelda. So the hearing has been rescheduled for the 23rd, correct? Is there a possibility that you can get an extension?
So we were noticed that we were going to have a second sunset hearing. After being noticed that we were having a second sunset hearing, I did reach out to staff to ask if they wanted this paper received after that second sunset hearing. They informed me that they still expected this paper to be turned in by the due date of April 12th. We did not receive an extension, so we went forward with that. We did hear late in the week, last week, or no, Monday, sorry, that they have postponed the April 23rd BRN Sunset Hearing number 2, but we do not have a date when that will be coming forward again.
This is Reza. I just want to make a brief comment just to make sure there's no misunderstanding that there was any, procrastination or anything on the part of staff. The deadline is handed down to us by the legislative committee. And I totally understand the concern about having to review and comment and provide feedback on such a long document in such a short amount of time. But as long as it is, and as long as it would take for you to review, you can imagine how long it would take to write that thing and polish it up and get internal approvals before it's sent out to you. And a board meeting being scheduled on 10 days notice, plus leaving in enough time to make any necessary amendments and finalize it before sending it back to the legislature. So it is an incredibly short timeline, but that was handed down to us, and that's unfortunately just the way this process is.
And Mary, while we were looking for that, I did find the sentence that I had in there. And the sentence that I had written in there says, nurse licensure compact allows a nurse to work temporary in or commute to other compact states as long as the nurse remains a resident in the issuing state.
Okay, and do we want to say anything about whether or not the BRN would support being a compact state? We want to be silent on that.
We cannot make a statement about the BRN being for or against because we have not had a board meeting where we took a board vote on that specific legislative topic. I could make mention to a historical part of the board where historically the board has opposed being part of the NLC.
This is Ken Marlboro. Are we? I actually agree with Mary on this. So I want to make sure that is brought up. But I had a couple items too that I had a few questions about. Is this a good time to go over that? Is it okay if I can do that? Hearing none,
I have no
I will do
objective,
so.
Ken.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So issue number 4, which has to do with the Nurse Practice Act, is the only licensing law in California that requires an executive officer to be a licensee. Why is this requirement necessary? I read the answer, and I'm not really sure if the executive, I'm sorry, the assistant executive officer provides that balance. I just think we need to have a little bit more on that. And then the last statement about 39 out of 54 Board of Nursing organizations have licensees as their executive officer. The question is, out of that 39, how many of them are required to have that? I think you should answer that because that is what they're saying about the requirement. It is fine that they are RNs, but we don't know if those boards require that to be that. And that's an answer you should seek out if you're going to use that.
I have that answer. I did receive that from NCSBN, and it is a requirement. I will find the statement that they sent to me, and I will read that to you. Give me one moment.
You don't have to read it to me. I would say put it in the answer. That actually solidifies what you're saying. Let's see.
Ken, with regard to your statement on number 4.
Yes.
It is my understanding that the majority, if not all the states, do require a RN in that position. We're a BRN board. We serve the registered nurses of California. It's important that that EO has the comprehensive knowledge of nursing education and practice. And that position right now is balanced by our assistant EO, who is not an RN. So both of them make an equitable team for that position.
I guess my comment is that that assistant is her direct report. So that's my only thing about that. I think you need to go in a little deeper on that. But if as far as the other nursing boards, that's fine. I'm not debating it. I'm just saying you have more clout if you put that information in there. It's not in there. It just says that they are RNs. It doesn't say that the boards require that. That's all I'm getting at on that. Let's see.
I do have a proposed update to issue number 4. We could state that the BRN's assistive executive officer, position does not have a requirement to be a registered nurse. This allows for an executive level position without the requirement of an RN license to provide input on objective regulation of the nursing profession. That way, we're not stating that it directly balances, but we can speak to the entire executive team of being non-nurses, with the exception of myself. We do have 12 positions, I believe, that are part of the executive team. 2 of those are vacant at this particular moment, and they are all non-RNs with the exception of myself. So the executive level management of the BRN does have a balance, and we could input something to that. Would that be acceptable, Ken?
Yeah, I can work with that. Can I move on to another area?
Yes.
This is a real simple one. This is issue 15, and this is in regards to the impact that and the MMAC that we're putting in. So the APR NAC that's currently still around, are there any recommendations that committee has provided that we have not seen?
On our committee meetings immediate to follow this board meeting, we have agenda items that are going forth as the nurse practice committee, where both the chair and the vice chair of the APRN will be speaking. That then will then go forward to the May board meeting if the nurse practice committee chooses to put it forward to a full board for hearing in a month. So that we have followed that process, and we are giving them ample opportunity to participate in this as they are still currently an established committee.
Okay. And lastly, issue number 25, the clinical simulation. I just want to add that you mentioned in here about the federal data being collected. We should have quite a bit of data since we had to do that waiver, and with AB 2288. And I hope we're collecting that data just to see, because they're allowed to go to 50%. We should have some good data in the near future to see how that has worked.
Yeah, I agree with Ken. I think that we really need to look more at the evidence that we have in the state of California from the waiver, as well as the evidence that's across the country on the use of simulation, especially because we are seeing programs that are impacted and nursing schools not able to get the clinical placements that are required.
I agree with you, Mary and Ken, both on that. The bit of information I think that we need to be clear with is as we are collecting this data, it's still very early. We have not had a graduating class come through that has been at a 50% simulation for their entire program. We have had 2 semesters complete with the 50% DCA waivers. And so that is not a entire nursing program yet. So we are in need of more data. We do not have the robust data that I believe that you guys are expecting at this moment. Additionally, when we pulled the stats of the schools that have taken advantage of the flexibility that was provided to them from AB 2288 that became BPC 2786.3, is there has not been a lot of use of that. I think the biggest one was the 25% pediatric drop with, under about a fourth of the schools taking advantage of that. The concurrency ones are down in the single digits, 8% to 10, 13%, I think is our highest. So the concurrency provision allotted by 2786.3, although helpful, is not going to give us a lot of robust data because there is currently still only few institutions that have taken advantage of that. That, in addition to the request to drop the specialty programs, the OB, PEDS, and psych mental health, that was also very low in the percentage of uses. What is very high in the percentage of use is the DCA waivers for the 50%. We did get, I believe, about 80% of our pre-licensure nursing programs taking advantage of that. So we will, again, have that data with the 50% after we get some programs that have utilized it the entire way through. With that said, that DCA waiver is only in place as long as the governor has that executive order in a place for the state of emergency and allowing the DCA director to use that waiver. So we do need to go ahead and continue to move forward with using the data that is collected at the federal level as well. What was made mention in that nursing, in our response to this, is that they are looking at establishing a minimum direct patient care requirement and not necessarily establishing specific simulation requirement. With the simulation study that came out, it was used with, I think the minimum hours being 600 in direct patient care. With the way that our calculations are set forth in 1426 G2, we come in right about that 600 mark. So it is comparable data that we could use. And so with NCSBN proposing to have a minimum direct patient care hour recommendation coming out in the fall, I think if we look to the future and addressed our regulation that has that calculation and gave it as a straightforward answer like we do have within our APRN regs. In our APRN regs for the nurse practitioner, it states that they require 500 direct patient care hours. And then it is up to that academic institution to utilize simulation, to utilize standardized patient, et cetera, and any percentage that they choose to do so after that. And so institutions that have the ability to do a 50% simulation where their students can be sorted through that can absolutely do a 50% simulation as part of our APRN regs, as long as they meet that minimum direct patient care requirement. They could even increase that up to a 60%, 70%, as long as that direct patient care is made. The other thing is for institutions that do not have the resources to support a robust simulation program like that, they could then drop it down to what fits them in their demographic. And that could be, 25% or 10%. What we would establish and stay quiet, we would establish the direct patient care hour requirement and then stay quiet as we currently do in our regulations right now on simulation. And that would give that power back to our nursing program directors to really develop a program that best suits their student population, their resources, their faculty, training, and I think it would pull us out of having any kind of oversight specifically to simulation, as we currently stayed quiet in that part. The other thing that I see with that is we do have individually approved curriculum throughout the state of all of our pre-licensure nursing programs, and the majority of them require above our minimum standards for clinical units. And so one of the examples that was put in there talked about a school that has an abundance of 300 hours or so that that they require to be completed prior to graduation, that is over and for each student that's over and above our requirement. If we had a direct patient care requirement versus a percentage, all of those almost 300, 400 hours that are currently part of their curriculum could all be done in simulation. And it would assist them in that. And all we would do is continue to maintain the public protection by establishing a minimum for direct patient care. So there's a lot of flexibility that we can do once we get that recommendation from NCSBN and see if we can better align with that. And so I think we're set in a really positive manner to support our schools and support our nurses and go forward with that. And we can do that looking at our data too that is collected within California once we have some graduating cohorts that have used 50% all the way through.
This is Elizabeth. As a nurse for many, many years, I'm concerned about this issue also. I was up at UC Davis, and they have an excellent lab up there, simulation lab. It's probably one of the best around. And it can be used as much as they need to use it, but that doesn't replace having a live human being in front of you, and it doesn't replace having to deal with all the other issues that go around a live human being and not on a computer.
Hi, this is Imelda. I totally agree with Betty Woods, and I'm not a nurse. I'm a public member, and I do believe that we need to look beyond that. I mean, this is the times now. It's the future. Everything's going to be virtually done. I think in order to retain good nurses, that is, again, I agree with Betty, but I think we need to look beyond. I would hate for the legislators to impose another legislative bill just because we are so resistant. I also believe that we should probably send out a survey to all the schools, the nursing schools, and see how if they agree or disagree. Anyways, we need to look beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Imelda. And Betty, I agree with you. Imelda, real quickly, we do have surveys that collect how much simulation is used by each school and whether that's beneficial. And we do have that data. We've been collecting that for years. So we would absolutely put that forth in any kind of regulation change that we would choose to pursue. And that would be data that we would include that as ours as well.
I was thinking of an opinion from the colleges. What they're. I know that we've heard a lot of comments from the colleges that they would like to see more simulation. Again, this 50% was forced on us. The waiver is going to expire, and I would hate for to be forced on us again. I think we need to work with the schools. We need to work with the legislators, and we need to move forward. We need to look beyond. We can't be stuck in the past.
I agree with you, Imelda, and that's what we're looking to do. So once we get that data from NCSBN that establishes a minimum direct patient care that is safe, put that with the data that we collect, we can absolutely pursue revision of CCR 1426 and that's G2, and that's where it establishes that the 75%, with the exception of the first nursing program. So what that states is our first nursing course. So fundamentals of nursing currently right now that is counted in that 18 unit minimum requirement for semesters can be done 100% in a skills lab and does not require any direct patient care whatsoever. The remaining courses that make up that 18 units right now in regulation is 75%. So we have 100% that can be used for simulation and skills lab in fundamentals. And what the stated in that regulation says, with the exception of the first nursing course that is largely taught in a skills lab, that can be done 100%. That is silent on that, so that can be up to 100%. And then we move into the remaining content areas that can be at 75%. So again, what can be done with that is we can revise 1426 G2. As a board, you guys can pursue that and ask that to be looked at. We will have the data to support those revisions in the fall once we get that report that's due out from NCSBN. With that, we can establish a minimum direct patient care, which would then allow the students, the individual academic institutions to do simulation in any percentage that they choose after meeting the direct patient care requirement. So we could have academic institutions that choose to do 25%. We can have academic institutions that choose to do 60%. And that would be completely acceptable if we choose to revise that regulation to just establish a minimum direct patient care. That is the way that the regulations are written right now in 1484, which is our nurse practitioner. And in our nurse practitioner regs, we state that 500 direct patient care hours are a minimum. That allows for every nurse practitioner program that is approved through the BRN to do simulation in any percentage that they choose once meeting that minimum direct patient care requirement. And I think that that is a viable solution to really allow our schools to have the utmost flexibility to offer simulation in the percentage that they are able to support, up to and maybe even surpassing the 50%, as long as they meet the minimum requirement of direct patient care that ensures that that patient that they care for later is kept safe, and that nurse that is prepared to go in and practice is kept safe. And that's our public protection. So we would establish that as a public protection and then allow the flexibility of the schools to establish their simulation program to complement that.
Lori, I think that whether we switch to hours or percentages, and I do think hours may, well, that's my personal opinion, but I think regardless of my personal opinion or anyone's, what we need to do with regard to this is pay attention to the best available evidence and have that drive our decision making.
I absolutely agree. And that would be part of the regulatory practice. So we can, if you want an edit to this section, we can edit that. I did everything that I've shared with you in this meeting, I do have in that response. And what we can do moving forward is put an agenda item on the next board meeting if you guys want to discuss the revision and updating of the regulation CCR 1426 G2.
I may speak. This is Jovita. Speaking as a current floor nurse, I see the huge difference, and I also am a adjunct at Hartnell with clinical, and I clearly on the floor see the difference between SIMS and actual patient care. There's a lot of critical thinking. I feel like it's more like a script, you know, like something that you can pass, and then just go over your head. But once you're in that patient and have all these different situations happen currently with the patient, their critical thinking skills, this is not SIMS, this is reality when they are actually taking care of a patient who could have a hypertensive crisis or a hypotensive crisis. They need that assistance with the clinical instructor at their side. And I honestly, even as a consumer with my family, getting elderly and needing to be hospitalized at one time, you really want somebody that knows how to use their critical thinking skills, because they do get the basics in SIMS, they get the nursing 101 and what did I do wrong, what I did. But then honestly, once you have it in your as you're acquiring your practice, because this is a safety issue, and you have a clinical instructor that's experienced and can help you guide you to the safe, to safe patient care. I honestly hope that we use more of those hours to actual patients and not so much sims. And I totally understand from a point of the schools needing, but then we also open a can of worms in the sense of allowing other schools that are more for profit to use this against our patient consumers.
Thank you, Jovita. And that would be the intent of updating the regulation to really ensure that those direct patient care hours that are so pivotal are met and maintained as a minimum standard for licensure.
So Lori, are we saying we're going to amend the response based on this discussion that we've just had?
I haven't heard a specific amendment to it suggested. It was more discussion around it, but if somebody has a specific amendment, we can absolutely discuss that.
I'm not sure if it's a specific amendment other than saying that going forward that we would make recommendations based on the best evidence that's available. I would like to see that included.
We can direct a sentence that specifically addresses doing something to that. We did say the BRN is not opposed to simulated clinical training. And we definitely can make one statement that says that we would look at updating regulation based on the evidence. Is that acceptable to you guys to kind of fluff that sentence out a little bit, but have it generally in that area?
I agree.
I think that
That was Dolores, correct?
Yes, that's me. This is Dolores. I agree.
and I just
And I
have,
know, sorry, I know Ken, you were kind of going through yours. Was that your last remark on your review of this specific report? Was
That's my last verbal. I actually sent you an email with some recommendations. You should have that.
I do have that, and on that email, you talked about the compact information, which was similar to what Dr. Mary Fagan had
Yes.
brought up in public comment, and not public, but board discussion here. And then the other items that were in your review of that, you did verbally go over in discussion here, with the exception of the one about the NECs, just making sure that we have the budget to support.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. Good.
Thank you, Ken.
This is Elizabeth again. Can we just go back to the issue of 25, this clinical simulation? Is the language, hello? I'd like to see more language in there that promotes direct patient care and de-emphasizes the simulation so much. We're talking here about simulation like somehow that this is the way we want to go. I think there should be an emphasis on direct patient care and the importance of it.
I agree with you, Betty. The question specifically asked, it says the BRN should discuss its current process for overseeing simulation, whether it supports any specific amount of simulation, and whether standards can and should be established. So to answer the question, we did have to answer specific to simulation. What we did put into there is we talked about BRN's mission is consumer protection, and that's the enforcement and regulations of minimum standards of nursing programs. And then we did say that the BRN is not opposed to simulation when done well and as an adjunct to direct patient care clinical training. And then we did say the BRN, we ended that statement with the BRN does believe that direct patient care clinical experience is important for newly graduated RNs in the workplace to eliminate the potential for errors in patient care or patient assessment. So even though the question did not specifically ask for our direct patient care statements, we did put that in 3 different locations to be able to address simulation and address that the direct patient care hour really is the ultimate patient protection. Is there something more that you can think that you would want specifically stated in that you think would make that more robust and still allow us to answer the simulation question?
Yeah, I'd have to think about it. I would have to think about it. Off the top of my head, I give you an answer. But it's just when I look at this, when I look at things like this, I always want to emphasize that the direct patient care is over and above any simulation. And maybe this speaks to that in some ways.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I will, as we continue to discuss this, I'll try to find one of the statements that I've used in the past, and I will share it with you here in this forum and see if you're accepting of that. So just like I'd done previously with the NLC information. So 1 second here.
Thank you.
This is Imelda. I have with issue number 2. You know, we've talked about this many, many, many times about the Attorney General's rate, you know, keeps going up and up. And we even talked about maybe having one assigned directly to the BRN. I don't know if we should make mention of that there. I mean, the only way we're going to ever overcome the increase in cost is if the legislators kind of put a flat fee for the boards. Again, I'm just mentioning this, and whether we need to put that we have talked about this many, many times. And, you know, the reason why we've had to increase the rates are because of the ongoing costs. So again, I don't know if we need to address it there that we talked about there, but that would be one of the options, that we have one assigned to us directly to the BRN, or that they said the legislator said a flat fee just for the boards. So I mean, this is out of control.
It does state in the question from the staff recommendation that it says is and whether any action is needed by the administration or the legislator to safeguard the health of its special fund. If there's a statement that you would like to put in there that suggests that the legislator consider making a across the board kind of fee, if you have some specific recommendation to that language, Imelda, we could include that. It does directly answer, it is directly sought as feedback as part of that. So if you want to give a suggestion on how you might want that stated, my executive team can work on getting that language in there for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have one more suggestion on issue 18 about RN educational program approval. We talked briefly about that the 42 other boards of nursing require approved nursing education programs. Then there are those, and I think I was just on the website, it looks like there's more that accept accreditation as opposed to the BRN doing the direct approval of programs. I think what I would like to put in here is that we would, the BRN would really plan to explore the possibility of looking at accreditation versus direct program approval. I think just because of the amount of time that it takes, even in board meetings, to go through all the individual programs, the problems that we're experiencing with vacancies in the NEC positions, which was identified number 8 of the issues that were identified, as well as number 27, which is consistency. So I just think it's something that we should identify in this review that it's something that we really want to look at, explore, and then again, look at the evidence to see, does it make sense to move to accreditation, and then allow, if that's the case, a lot of other work can be done to improve some of the other issues we have that we're working on to improve the BRN.
Thank you for that. I want to make sure that you're on the data that's with NCSBN is that approval is a requirement from NCSBN, board approval. They are nurses that would be graduating from the pre-licensure programs are required to graduate from a Board of Registered Nursing approved program, or they cannot sit for their NCLEX. And so I want to make sure that you did see that on the NCSBN website and that is a requirement. The accreditation process and the stuff that they have listed on the NCSBN website on accreditation is in addition to the approval. And NCSBN does recommend that accreditation it is a added and a good thing to pursue is accreditation. That does not take away the Board of Nursing approval that is required in each one of the states in order for the nursing students that graduate to be able to sit for their NCLEX. And I think specifically it states in there on the NCSBN website that they work in conjunction. And then on the NCSBN website as well, they have a section where it calls out how boards of nursing can do accrediting visits with the accreditors as well, and they can do them concurrently. And that is absolutely something that we're exploring. I've been in meetings with deans and directors on about an every other week basis, since October, discussing this possibility. Most recently, with all the sunset requirements, I've had to cancel some of those meetings, so we probably haven't met in about a month. And we do have our initial visit that we're doing concurrently with the accrediting visit happening at San Diego City College in the fall. It's been scheduled, I believe, for September or October of this year. And so we are doing that and moving forward with looking at that. But with NCSBN, the requirement is to maintain board approval, and that we can't do. The other data that I want to share with you is that although NCSBN requested that, or recommended, that the boards of nursing really look at adopting accreditation as well into their standards and into law, and they have not done that. And since that recommendation, the accreditation of the BSN programs has decreased. So from 2012, when NCSBN put out that recommendation, it is now shown that instead of an increase in accrediting programs, there's been a decrease in accrediting programs. BSN programs in 2012 were accredited about 96%, and now the BSN programs have dropped to an 89%. And these are national statistics. The other thing is with the ADN programs, that accreditation has dropped to only 53% of ADN programs having accreditation. So the approval process is a mandatory process with NCSBN to have the Board of Nursing that is in the state that school operates in has to approve that school. And so the accreditation is in addition to that. So
Right.
I'm hoping that kind of clarified.
Well, I'm
for
suggesting
you.
that, I'm not suggesting that the BRN not approve the program. I'm just suggesting that there may be a potential to give more weight to accreditation, because I'm assuming, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm assuming that a lot of things that we are doing that our NECs are doing are things that are also being reviewed as part of the accreditation process. So could we not, if we required accreditation, streamline some of the work that our NECs have to do, as opposed to duplicating work that schools are doing because they're completing their accreditation process?
And we are meeting to look at that. And we are making changes to better align with that. That is ongoing, and that is something that I have actively started along with my chief of licensing, Macaulay Fusarians, who oversees the licensing unit as well as the NECs. And her and I are working collaboratively with four other deans and directors throughout the state that represent both private and publicly funded institutions at both the ADN and the BSN levels. And they are all participating in that. And we're looking at ways that we can align and remove some of the duplication. There is a really amazing part on NCSBN that you can look at that really talks about the differences of approval and accreditation. And it's a really quick kind of down and dirty, and it's a neat little at a glance form that talks about the different focuses. And so you can see that there is, although similarities, there are still some distances, and that's really what we need to look at here is that evidence base. And so there is a document. I know that you probably looked at the one that has the map. And so there's a document on the website that's under Board of Nursing Approval, National Nursing Accreditation. It's a PDF. And it talks about the differences between the Board of Nursing has the legal authority to close programs not meeting the state standards. National nursing accreditors, they have the authority to remove accreditation. So we can close a program and they can remove accreditation. The cost, it says less costly, approximately half of the states charge nothing. National nursing accreditors says it's more costly. And CSBN then says federal regulations for funding. It says boards of nursing do not make program eligible for federal funding. And the accreditation says it may be linked to federal funding and related regulations. The fraudulent program section, they said position to seamlessly work with state agencies for cease and desist orders. Boards of Nurses Network through FITS allow about fraudulent programs that might cross state lines. And with the national one, it says it's more difficult to work with state agencies, no national networking system for fraudulent programs. Initial approval and accreditation talks about a program must achieve full state approval before enrolling students. The accreditation says full accreditation is not awarded until the first graduating class. Length of approval accreditation for boards of nursing says states vary from 1 to 5 or more years as needed. And the accreditors are 8 to 10 year program visits unless standards are not met. The mission for the boards of nursing says that's public protection. And the mission for national nursing accreditors is to ensure quality of nursing programs. The perspective for boards of nursing says statewide, they know the availability of faculty, clinical placements, etc. The perspective for national nursing accreditors says it's less of a pulse on the regional or state needs. Programmatic, it says the more focus on public protection and state standards, faculty qualifications less stringent, knowledge of the Nurse Practice Act, clinical supervision, standards of practice in some states, faculty and student clinical ratios. And for national nursing accreditors, it says the more focus on the institution and program excellence, congruence of goals and philosophy, governance, academic policies, continuous quality of improvement. For the requirement, it says that it's integral to licensure, mandated in all states to make students eligible for NCLEX for board approval. And for national accreditation, it says voluntary, although 20 states require it as a collaborative oversight. So that is 20 out of the 54 that they oversee. Response to complaints for boards of nursing says when complaints are serious, faculty not showing up to clinical, sudden attrition, boards of nursing can respond immediately. For the national nursing accreditors, NCSBN says response takes longer, must go through their procedures. The service for boards of nursing says we serve the public. The service for national nursing accreditors says it serves the nursing program in a business relationship. Under structure for boards of nursing, it says it's state government. And under structure for national nursing accreditors, it says it's private nonprofit. So those are the differences. We're taking those differences into consideration when we're looking at the individual processes that the board does. We have a lot that we can improve on. And we are excited to continue that collaboration with those deans and directors. And I'm excited to participate in the very first collaborative accreditation and approval visit that will be held this fall. I'm excited to see how that goes. I'm really happy that San Diego City College volunteered. And I will be tagging along as the EO as just a fly on the wall, essentially, as I watched that process unfold here in San Diego.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board members? Seeing that there's no further comment or questions, Reza, as far as procedural, would we vote on the responses as is with amendments? Or we can take it to the administrative committee? We can take it, the original motion was to have the administrative committee look at this and sign off.
Right. So I think the procedure would be, I don't think we got a second to the original motion, so we'll make a new motion, and that would presumably be to approve the paper with the amendments that were proposed today that are agreed upon by the full board, and also delegating authority to the administrative committee to do kind of the final review and approval before the document gets sent to the legislature.
Okay.
So, so what I might suggest is somebody make a motion along those lines, and maybe we do just a quick run through just to kind of recap what the amendments were, so that we know what's, you know, what board staff need to work on, and then go to public comment and then the vote.
Okay, got it. Lori, do you happen to have the list of inserts into these answers?
I've been keeping notes as well.
I did jot some notes. Reza, yours might be more thorough, but what we can do is compare as we go through these.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure that we addressed the temporary, essentially like the traveling nurses that are able to come in and
Lori, real quick,
help.
I just wanted to make a quick comment, just so everyone's clear on the process, kind of harking back to what we discussed earlier about this entire process, just so the full board is aware. As I said, the motion that's probably going to be made is for the administrative committee to do the final review and send this thing out. The full board is not going to see the final draft with these amendments incorporated into it before it's submitted to the legislature, and have a chance to kind of weigh in again on that. So just to be sure everyone's clear, this is your chance to ensure that we get the amendments, you know, accurately described and all that. So thank you.
Thank you, Reza. Lori?
I have discussion around the NLC that talks about the license portability for temporary instead of just changing the primary state of residency. I have including data from AB 2288 and the DCA waivers. I have the recommendation for the legislator to make a cap of some sort on the AG wages or AG fees, sorry. I have accreditation and approval oversight to make sure that that is clear, that we will continue to work on any duplicative process with that. That is, I believe, the extent of my notes. I was scribbling as I was trying to also look up different things, but if I missed anything, please let me know. Simulation, I'm sorry, I did see that I have simulation scribbled on here too. And that was establishing part of that with 2288 and 2163.
Thanks, Lori. Reza, is there anything on your notes that Lori didn't have?
She got the items that I had jotted down as well.
Okay.
Sorry, RN and AEO. RN as the EO, and then working with the executive management team versus just making the specific statement about the assistant executive officer. that I could speak to the other 10 members on the current executive management team, not including the vacant positions, are all not RNs, and provide adequate input in balancing that viewpoint from a business perspective.
So just as a point of clarification, as an EO, you can go directly to DCA as well as Yvonne, or Yvonne does not need to, Yvonne can go on her own to DCA?
Any of my board staff can go on their own to DCA and circumvent me at any point. Since taking this position, we've had several meetings to kind of work on discussing culture within the BRN to ensure that they know that they can go directly to the board to communicate any issues if they do not feel that they're being heard by me, and that they can go directly to DCA, HR, EEO, or even up through agency to have any discussions if they do not feel that they're being heard on the level that they need to. Additionally, my executive management team does have regular communication with both internal and external stakeholders and provide a lot of input. One important thing that I think it's really imperative to know that I didn't know when I first became a staff of the board is, as an RN at the bedside, I thought the board of nursing was RNs. When I walked into Sacramento, I was like, wait, I'm one of the only RNs? We only have 14 NECs in all of the BRN staff that are RNs and the executive officer. So out of the almost 300 staff that make up the BRN, 15 are RNs, and the rest are all public members, and they have the input in how all policy and legislation. We have a reg analyst and a leg analyst that are absolutely not RNs, and they are the ones that do all of that interaction with DCA lawyers and legal for the regulatory and legislative processes, and that does not have an RN. Anytime that an item comes forth for discussion, they reach out to subject matter experts. And most of the time, that is not me. The subject matter expert comes from, our chief of licensing, our chief of enforcement, our board ops. We have so many people that make up our team, and it's really important, I believe, for the public to understand that of the almost 300 employees that make up the board staff, there's only under 20 that are NECs. And in the table that's actually presented in this background paper response, there's a table of all of the NEC positions. And the NEC positions, with the exception of the EO, are the only positions in all of board staff that require an RN.
Thank you, Lori.
You're
So
welcome, Dolores.
I think you did a wonderful job with your responses to the board questions. You've definitely hit the ground running in this position.
It's been quite the learning experience, and I have a lot more learning to do, but I'm up for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I would like to make a motion that we accept the responses to the Sunset Review paper with inclusion of some of the board statements, with final approval going to the administrative committee, which consists of Lori, Ken, and I.
And again, I'm just the liaison to that. So the committee is actually the vice president and the president of the board.
And Ken and I would sign off. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mary. Can we open it up for public comment?
We will be opening for public comment now. I will be activating the question and answer feature. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Board President Trujillo, oh, somebody snuck in there, sorry. Julie Jordan would like to make a comment. 1 second, Julie. Go ahead, Julie. Julie. Julie Jordan, did you have a comment? Board President Trujillo, there was a request for comment, but she did not speak or respond. There are no other public requests. Would you like me to close this window?
Is she unmuted?
I did unmute her.
Okay. Yes, you may close the window.
Okay.
Can
Thank you.
you check and see if she could make a message in the comments again to see if maybe she's having some problems? Can you open that back up so maybe she can communicate that way so we know whether to wait or try to troubleshoot?
Julie, did you hear that? I've unmuted you again if you were ready to speak. Somebody totally different has responded that they're having audio problems, but that's not Julie Jordan.
It did look like that other person was able to make something in the comment. Could Julie Jordan enter into the comments whether or not she's having technical difficulties, if she's having a difficulty with the audio?
Chair and moderator, is there anything further we can do other than unmute her?
Nothing. She's unmuted, and there's no response in the Q&A window either.
All right. At this point, we can probably close the window and take the vote.
Thank you.
Seeing that there's no further responses. All right. We're going to take the vote for the motion. Dolores Trujillo, myself, I vote yes. Ken?
Ken Marlboro votes yes.
Betty?
Betty, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Okay. Imelda?
Melda votes yes.
Okay. Susan?
Susan Naranjo, yes.
Mary?
Mary Fagan, yes.
Ovita?
Dominguez says yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Board members, we now go into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 11-126, Subdivision E, to discuss pending litigation.
This is Reza. For the members of the public, just a quick heads up. After the closed session, we'll return to open session and adjourn the board meeting. There's no additional items on the board meeting agenda. And immediately after that, the committee meetings will commence.
Thank you, Reza.